So hi, Bertrand Conquéret speaking. Very nice to be with all of you today, together here with Miguel Cossio from Gartner, Bertrand Conquéret, CPO from Henkel, and the co-founder of the Sustainability Procurement Pledge. So very happy to be with all of you today because for the second time, thank you very much to Gartner, to Miguel, and to the entire team of Gartner to have managed these second Sustainable Procurement Pulse Survey findings. And this is what it is about, going together with Miguel into a dialogue about these findings. And these findings are for all of us as professionals, as also part of the SPP mission, extremely important to take the pulse and then to understand exactly where are we, to reflect on it, and to design our programs, our activities, our focus moving forward. And being at the end of 2023, extremely important to manage that moment in order to design and to incorporate this into our priorities for 2024. Back to you, Miguel.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Bertrand. And hi, everybody. Really happy to be here presenting some of this information. So let's get started. So first of all, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background for this annual benchmark that we're running between Gartner and the SPP in partnership. So the purpose of this annual study is twofold. First is to assess the satisfaction of the SPP ambassadors with the SPP as a group and understand how the SPP is supporting your individual sustainability journeys, right? So thinking about what are the things that are most useful, less useful, what are the things that you want to learn more about, right? So this really helps us identify as SPP what are the things that or the agenda going forward. Now, the second thing, which is we're going to be focusing today is on the state of sustainable procurement. So this particular part of the study is exclusively focused on people who are current practitioners in procurement, who are involved or have been involved in the last 2 years in a sustainable procurement strategy, and it's really looking at trying to understand what is the progress companies are making, what are the best practices that you should be thinking, what are the gaps that we should be addressing, right? So this is an annual study that we started last year, 2022, and we typically run it in March for data collection, and then in September, we publish the findings. All of the information that you see here today and more is going to be available on the LinkedIn page. It's already available, but you're going to see the link to it right in this session, okay? So let's get started. So in terms of the questions that we asked in this particular study, I created this summary guide so that everybody can access the file, see what are the topics being asked, and then where to find that information. As you can see here on the left, we actually split the topics into both broad ESG from a sustainable procurement, so multiple topics from an ESG perspective, but we also did a deep dive on scope 3 specifically because it's one of the topics a lot of companies are focusing on. So use this guide to figure out if there's something here that's going to be the most useful for you as you're making some of these decisions. Now, from a respondent base, right? It's always important as you see some of these data to understand who is responding and where they're responding from, right? So you understand a little bit more about the data. In this case, 65% of respondents were from Europe, and then 18% North America, and the rest split between Latin America and Middle East and APAC. Okay. Now, in terms of that respondent base, beyond the geographic location, it's also the job title. This is really important to understand because the majority of people that you see here, more than 50%, were managers, senior managers, and vice presidents, with also 15% of CPOs. These are people who are setting the strategy and executing some of this strategy on sustainable procurement. Now, every year we try to assess how important, what are the trends that we're seeing, right? In terms of the importance of sustainable procurement for this group of respondents, 83% told us that the importance of sustainable procurement has increased in the past 2 years. Now, you can see it's 20% increase, 62% significantly increased. There's a rounding effect here, right? So that's why it's 83%. But if you feel like you are under increased pressure to deliver and set something up in terms of sustainable procurement, you're not alone. 83% of people are saying, yes, that is the pressure that we're seeing. Now, in terms of what are the topics that are companies focusing on as part of their sustainable procurement strategy. We asked them to tell us across all of these different topics, what are the, from a 1 to 7 importance rating, this is what they told us it's important or very important. You can see greenhouse gas emissions is up there. You can see worker well-being, modern slavery, but also diversity, equity, and inclusion. So considering the demographics where 65% is based on Europe, we can see that supplier diversity, equity, and inclusion is no longer a topic that's more reserved to audiences or companies based in the US or New Zealand, right? This is definitely something that has been increasing. This is the second year, in fact, that we asked this question, and supplier diversity, equity, inclusion has always made the top of the list. So I think that's interesting to highlight. Now, we also asked what is the difference between how important some of these topics and how effective do the people responding to this survey feel their companies are at making progress, right? So you can see greenhouse gas emissions, 85% said it's very important, but only 57% said yes, they are effective or very effective at doing this. Same with modern slavery, for example, only 50% of people told us they are effective or highly effective at actually making progress towards modern slavery. So this is important to keep in mind, as if you feel like you're like there's things that are important to your strategy, to your organization, and you're still not making progress, you're not alone. That's a key takeaway here. Now, typically in these surveys, we like to split the population. As you access the full data set, you're going to see some differences in terms of what leaders and what followers are doing, right? The way that we define leaders in this study is very simple. We asked people to tell us how much they agree with the statement of our suppliers are making meaningful improvements to how they perform against their sustainable procurement expectations. Now, this particular statement is crafted in a way because everybody has different goals. Some people are highly ambitious, other people are not ambitious, but we're all trying to make suppliers do something, right? Make progress towards whatever our goals are, right? So if you are a company that feel like your suppliers are making progress, we're considering you a leader because, and we can see some real difference in terms of practices, right? So 66% of people told us yes, they feel like suppliers are making meaningful improvements, and that's an increase from 2022, which was 54%. So Bertrand, any thoughts here in terms of making progress? I'm sure SPP is playing a big role here, right? But I think this is good news in general, right?
These are good news. It's progressing, but these are good news also due to the context that you also described. I mean, the importance of the agenda on sustainability has tremendously increased over the last couple of years, and especially in 2023. So there is, of course, there is an obvious mindset change. But there is more than a mindset change. There is also a complete environment where we have committed as companies also to different targets to achieve by 2025, 2030, 2040. So the how to make it is increasing in terms of relevance and attention and execution. And last but not least, also regulations. Regulations like the German Supply Chain Act and other regulations moving everywhere, deforestations, you name it. I mean, all those regulations are there. So this is that combination which is making definitely that agenda moving up. So it's moving up. Let's continue to work on it very hardly, because 65% or 67%, great. Let's probably reach the 80, 85 and 90 very quickly because of considering the urgency talks and urgency walks that and execution that we need to manage. So very good progress. And we take it it's very inspiring. At the same time, I think that in our respective roles and into the Sustainable Procurement Pledge, we take it as a call for action and continue to move forward to accelerate the change.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that the real takeaway here is it's all about making progress, right? This is a journey. It's never ending, and it's not like we're as long as we can make suppliers mobilize and in a role in procurement, I think that's a significant a role that we play in making that happen, right? So completely agree. Now, in terms of how are we embedding sustainability in procurement in the way that the procurement function operates, right? So last year we asked people to tell us what level of priority sustainability had, but this year we did something different, right? So what we did is we asked people to tell us if they were including sustainability goals in these processes that you see here, right? Procurement goals and objectives, the supplier collaboration agenda. But not only did we ask them to tell us if they were including this, we asked them to tell us if they feel that it was included with the right level of priority. Again, some people have very highly ambitious goals, others not so ambitious goals, right? But if you have, for example, a very ambitious goal of being net zero, and you have a code of conduct that has just a clause that says, please, suppliers, work with us in terms of our decarbonization journey, is that included with the right level of priority? Most likely you feel like it's not, right? So to me, this is definitely a call for action because you can see it both ways. It's great that the gray areas, which is where it's not included at all, they're very small, right? So it's definitely been included in the agenda, but the light blue is what's concerning me, right? It's things that it's people telling us we don't feel like it's being included with sufficient priority. So the way that you would read this is we look at supplier quotation process is 88% people say yes, they include it, but only 25% feel like it's sufficiently prioritized, right? Maybe it's included, but it's 5%. Go ahead, Bertrand.
And this is, Miguel, what I was sharing. It's all about the how. And the how starts with strategy. What do we want? What are the goals and the ambition we have? What's the destination? And then what are the enablers to put in place to reach that destination? And this is where, of course, this agenda is definitely very complex, but this is where some priorities must be defined and then stick to the priorities, empower, equip, enhance, manage, and then learn. And learn, this is why we take it as such into the Sustainable Procurement Pledge to have that sharing of knowledge and that scalability of knowledge to accelerate the knowledge, accelerate the empowerment, but also the networking and the ability to multiply that knowledge and this ability, this content, and this ability to move forward. So priorities, absolutely essential to penetrate the agenda of the entire crew and then to be able to manage sustainability as full part of the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we were saying earlier, right? So the more than 50% of the respondents here are from a seniority perspective, manager, VP. So they are the ones setting the strategy. They're the ones who need empowerment to make sure that this is sufficiently prioritized in the agenda. It's not the only thing, nor most likely not the most important thing among the other things that they're working on, but it has to match their ambition with how they prioritize this, right? So absolutely. Now let's talk about some of the biggest challenges that we saw, right? So we asked people to tell us what are the top 3 challenges that their companies were facing, right, to achieve their sustainable procurement goals. And the top 3 things, once again, not sufficiently prioritized in how procurement is making decisions, right, purchasing decisions, not having access to supplier data we need, and not having the staff needed to drive improvements. Now there are different, I mean, the real themes behind this, as I think about this, is the first one is a theme of leadership. It's a theme of making sure that we are balancing all of the different things that we need to deliver on, because again, sustainability is not the only one. It's cost, it's risk, it's other things. In terms of supplier data, it's a theme of supplier engagement. It's about using the right tools to collect some of these data, right? And in terms of staff, I mean, in some cases, maybe it's not that you need more people. It's you need to make sure that the people that are working with you, they are empowered to drive the sustainable procurement agenda, right? It's not just the sustainability people or the sustainable procurement people who should be doing this. Everybody should own this. Any thoughts on this, Bertrand?
You're to the point. I mean, this is definitely people experts in sustainability or our sustainability leaders or in procurement sustainability. They have that expertise and they are there to guide and to support it, to enhance. But it is obvious that the procurement organization itself has to embed it and then to learn on it. And then not only learning, but incorporating into the priorities and the tools and the way and the daily jobs and decisions we are taking. It is obvious that one of the key elements is data. It's extremely important to get this data, to get the information, to get the transparency, the traceability in order to start to build up an agenda. And that requires a lot of discipline, a lot of effort. It is absolutely obvious, but it is definitely a must go. And then that's why the topic of understanding priorities, how to make it, how to harvest first what is available, to then go to the more complex. And then this is what I would call the strategic path, which has to be developed as part of the continuous improvement. And then a part of that continuous improvement is continuous learning and going deeper, and then categorizing and then tackling the topics one after the other, and embedding it into the sourcing activities, the supplier relationship, the supplier evaluation, the choices to be made, and then saying it into the KPIs of the achievements and the progress accordingly. So it's a journey. The most important is that no one should feel alone in a company, but even more importantly, into the ecosystem. We are everybody is into this journey, and we need to recognize it and to work in communities and together. And this is why we have that set up into the sustainability procurement pledge to give that sense and that scalability that we can gain together to acquire this knowledge and then to execute in our respective organizations.
Yeah, and the other thing that's really interesting from these data set is look at the bottom challenges, right? Suppliers are not engaged, or we don't have executive support. That's no longer a challenge, right? So very few people feel like they still need to bring or get executive support or get suppliers mobilizing. So suppliers are willing, and the executive team is also like already like we have their attention, right? It's a matter of making sure that we make things happen. Right.
Yes, so it's all about the how. It's all about the how.
Exactly.
And this how is a collective learning.
Absolutely. Now let's look at a few interesting data points in terms of the scope 3 specific questions, right? So one of the things that we wanted to learn is where are companies in their decarbonization journey, right? So if you look from left to right, that's usually the journey companies are following, right? So first you collect the data and you set a baseline, then you start looking at setting and confirming reduction targets, then you identify actions, and then you start implementing and tracking actions, right? So right now, only 1 in 5 organizations are implementing and tracking those actions to decarbonize, but 40% are already in the process of identifying some of these actions that are going to be looking into. You can see the split between leaders and followers. Remember, leaders are the ones that feel suppliers are making improvements, so definitely leaders are ahead in terms of taking action. But this is, I think this overall is a good sign, right? So we're moving beyond just measuring into now really looking at what are the specific actions that we need to take in order to really bring down those scope 3 emissions. So I think this is a good thing overall. Now, another thing that I find really interesting about this study is most companies, 70% said that today they are focusing on corporate level supply chain emissions, right? So think about your corporate value chain emissions based on the greenhouse gas protocol, and only 36% are saying, yes, we're doing product level emissions or product life cycle emissions, right? If you look at the diagram on the right, you can see that only a very small portion are doing both. What's really interesting is that from a product level emissions perspective, 47% of respondents told us that they plan to focus on this within the next 3 years. So as hard as it is to start looking at corporate value chain emissions, a lot of companies are saying, well, we need to go beyond that, and we need to start looking at the product level so that we can start identifying actions to change our designs or optimize some of these products or services that we're buying, so that we can really make an impact on the things that we're purchasing from our suppliers. Right. So this is we have a separate study on the technology landscape, and that matches exactly this. Right. A lot of people are looking now for tools for product carbon footprints as well. So this is interesting. And the last thing that I want to share here is in terms of how confident people are for hitting some of the targets, right? So we asked people some of them have a science-based target with SBTi, others have, and in addition to that, they have net zero targets. Specifically for net zero targets, we saw that only half of organizations feel confident in their ability to hit those targets. 42% they said, well, we're neither confident nor not confident, and 6% said we're not confident at all. right? So I think it's one of those stories where it could be either you could be positive and say, great, 50% of people feel they're very confident, or you can be pessimistic and say, wow, only 50%, right? So it's definitely a challenge. It is a journey. We expect that this is going to continue growing in terms of confidence as companies learn more or get better at helping suppliers reduce their emissions. The new regulations come in place, etc. But any thoughts here, Bertrand? I mean, this is a big thing, right, for a lot of CPOs out there.
Absolutely, and I think what one of your previous charts was showing that the move to product level emission indicates to me also the learning curve. We are going deep and deeper.
Yeah.
So the topic is extremely complex.
Yeah.
And then going deeper is already a very good indication. So going deeper and gaining in scalability is what is currently ongoing. So I'm not so surprised personally with that, and I'm not surprised with this answer in the sense that it's a journey, it's ongoing, it's complex, and at least there is a clear transparency and honesty in saying where we are. And when we are means that we are far away to have yet reached the peak. And we are not yet on top of the mountain. It is still a very long journey. And if there is something that probably we all learn in these in sustainability and in the topic of also of net zero, it's to be very humble. It's the complexity, as I just mentioned. It is the size of the agenda, and it's new. And this is what we all are learning. And I do believe that things will change very, very much over the next 1, 2, 3 years, and we will see more and more execution, implementation, learnings, and speed. So we are just at the beginning. And I do believe that over the next 2 years, we will see significant improvements into the next Pulse survey that you will manage. And this is something that we will follow very, very precisely, because it is obvious that it is the agenda, or one of the top agenda into which we need really to perform and to have significant progress.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. I mean, it is new. It is a work in progress, but overall, I feel optimistic, right? Because generally speaking, we see better practices being put in place. We see more people feel like the suppliers are making progress. So I think we have early signs of people really investing time on this, right? So it's just a matter of not losing the momentum. So the last thing that this is the last slide that I had for you is, first of all, everybody can access. This is publicly available as long as you sign up to the LinkedIn SPP group page, right? So I have the link here, or you could just look into LinkedIn and find it. Everything is going to be available, and we're kicking off our 2024 benchmark right now. We're in the process of identifying some of the questions, some of the topics that are going to be most useful for people, for our SPP ambassadors, for people in the audience, right? So if you have any questions, any topics you would like us to include, please make sure that you're reaching out. You can send me directly an email, miguel.cossio@Gartner, and we can take it from there. So with that, I think that's all we had for everybody today. I hope you enjoyed this session. And Bertrand, thank you so much for hosting this, and it's always a pleasure to present for the SPP community.
Thank you very much, Miguel, and all the best for the benchmark 2024. We are waiting for the Pulse.